How far would you go to protect your family? It's an age old question, but it's one I'm always fascinated with. Because me personally, half my family I can't stand. But if someone were to ask me what I do to keep my wife and daughter safe, well, it's a simple answer for that question. I do anything to protect them. Now, what if you were a 16-year-old girl and you had a father who was just working all the time and a drug dealing sister who will pretty much mess anyone up who's looking at her the wrong way? And now you're pregnant and soon come to learn that your kid is Satan himself reborn. So now I have a new question for you. What would you do in that situation? And that is the premise of the story in Babyteeth. You might feel that it sounds a bit like Rosemary's Baby or The Omen. And yes, two of those classic horror movies that do somewhat have a presence in this plotline at points. But unlike both of those series, Babyteeth's main focus isn't the end of days, but of the family and how far we'll go to protect them. So this series is written by Donny Cates and drawn by Gary Brown, and we have somewhat of a comedic yet very slice of life look into raising Satan. This series runs 20 issues and starts off very small scale and grows much larger, yet the theme of family stays imprinted through each and every issue right until the end of this series. So I'll give you a little breakdown of what it's about in some of the beginning, but I won't go into super detail because I really want people to check this series out. But right off the bat, we start with Sadie going into labor within the first few pages of the series. However, unlike most pregnancies, every time Sadie has a contraction, it causes an earthquake. So while she's destroying highways, her sister Heather is trying her best to get her little sister to the hospital before that little baby pops out. They eventually do make it to the hospital, and little Clark is born. And yes, Clark, as in Superman. It's not actually Superman. I mean, just the name Superman. That's where she got it from. And everything just seems to be okay. So we learn that Clark isn't eating his food. No matter how much milk Sadie tries to give, or even her dad with the bottles, Clark will just throw it up. During these moments, you begin to see the theme of family really grow. There's a lot of touching moments, one where Sadie asks her father if he's ashamed of her, which he replies, "Don't ever think that way, not for a second," and ends on a funny note saying, "Hey, 60-year-olds have babies all the time. It's not the end of the world," which us readers get a laugh because, it's the end of the world. Satan's here. Little Satan, baby Satan, the best Satan. But the point of her father telling her these things just proves that he loves her unconditionally. Soon after, we learn, through some nipple biting, that Clark sure loves blood. Blood is the key to his food, not milk. Only problem is Sadie will lose too much blood if she continues to give Clark the amount of food he needs a day. So she goes to her big sister, letting her know her nephew drinks blood. And a normal reaction would be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" But Heather fully believes in her sister and tries to help her, once again reinforcing the bond that families will go through any lengths in this series to protect the ones close to them. And soon the story expands as we learn the secret organization is after Clark and wanting him dead before he gets older. Then we learn that Clark isn't the first of his kind, and it just grows into an even deeper story with a cult-like facility wanting to protect Clark to bring the end of days. And it gets bigger and bigger, but I'm not going to spoil the entire series like I said earlier. In fact, I really want to promote reading this series. While I give you glimpses of the opening few issues here and talking about the grander scope, this is a must-read wild adventure that might be my favorite work from Cates, and that's saying a lot seeing as he has a great body of work. Listen, I'm always fascinated by the idea of family, or more to the point, the ones that we love enough that we'll do anything for. I'm sure even if you're listening right now, if you disregard all your family, if you're not a fan of them or they treated you like shit, there are friends out there that you probably would consider family and would fight for. And I think that's the point here, that Sadie's actual family, while it being small, mostly her, Clark, her sister Heather, and her father, the pilot, who's an ex-Marine, by the way, which is badass, and their willingness to save each other and fight for each other no matter the situation is just perfect. No matter how big or scary someone is, they'll work together and take them down or stop them. But beyond the family structure, the bond between mother and son is really special here. As a parent myself now, and watching how much Sadie loves her child and also questions her every action, not sure if he's doing the right thing, is something I believe every single parent in the world can relate to. I know both my wife and I question things all the time. Now imagine that, but with Satan as your kid. And I think the question of what exactly would you do in this situation if Satan was reincarnated as your son? Would you still protect him? Do you believe in predetermined fate that he'll always bring evil in the end of the days? Do you worry he'll destroy your family from within before destroying everything else? Or does none of that matter because when you look into the eyes of your child and he looks back at you, you know you're doing everything in your power to protect them till your dying breath? I think the Series X is a heavy question. What would you do to protect your family and the ones that you love the most in this world? And even upon finishing this video, I have to be honest, my answer is the exact same. If I was having Satan, I would do everything in my power to protect them. Don't give a shit. They're my kid. So I would love to hear what you guys think. What would you do in this case? Or have you read the series and do you like it? I would actually like both of those answers. And if you haven't read this series, I cannot recommend it enough. It is completed. You could correct all the trades, or you can get the hardcovers. The volume 1 is out, and volume 2, I think, is coming out in a couple of months. So check that out. Everybody else, have a wonderful day, and I hope you enjoyed this video.